The Fighting Illini finished their football season at 9-3, one of the best seasons in recent memory, and I'm going to tell you why the future is even brighter. Locked on Illini, let's go.
You are Locked on Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Monday edition of Locked on Illini. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single day. Simple reminder, you can find us on all your favorite audio platforms, on social medias, here on YouTube. Just do a quick search for Locked on Illini. Say hello, send me a message, say hi, say bad things, whatever you want. Just know I'll be the one responding to you. I really do appreciate all the support that you guys do tend to give. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So Saturday at Wrigley Field, the Illini, I would say maybe toyed with their food a little bit when it comes to their matchup against Northwestern, a game that never really felt threatening, but Northwestern did tend to keep it a little closer most of the game than we all probably preferred to have felt comfortable with. But Illinois did come out with the victory, with a comfortable victory, ending their season at 9-3. Again, 9-3. Your Fighting Illini. Your Fighting Illini have finished fifth in the Big Ten Conference. We don't know exactly where they're going to line up bowl-wise. Obviously, the college football playoff dream ended with that loss to Minnesota, but it does look like Illinois is basically set up to play in one of the really good bowl games in Florida. A lot of the projections have us going to the Citrus Bowl, and we could be matched up again, maybe in Alabama, or even I'm seeing a South Carolina. You know, it's going to be a very, very good SEC team. And again, it's just, I wanted to take a second to just appreciate the previous couple months that we've watched of this football team. I'm going to elaborate on this thought a little bit later, so I hope you guys understand the context of what I'm about to say. I think this might have been the greatest season in Illinois football history. I'm not saying that this is the best team, but I just think when it comes to expectations coming into the year, obviously, last year, we lost a lot of talent. In the last 2 years, let's be honest, we've lost a lot of talent to the NFL. This year's roster doesn't really scream NFL talent out at you. And yet, we come into the year with a 5.5 Vegas win total. We end up winning 9 games. We end up winning 6 conference games. We won more conference games than we were projected to win games in total for the entire season. I think the way this team overperformed compared to the talent that was in that locker room is an attestament to how fortunate we are here with Bret Bielema and the staff that he's put together. And this goes for both Barry Lundy Jr. and I know a lot of you are kind of getting sick of Aaron Henry and some of his third down calls, and I'm not saying I blame you necessarily, but I think overall Bret Bielema is showing that the future here with the Illini is bright. And what do I mean by that? As I've just mentioned, 9-3 for the Illini this season, and we don't have the top end talent that I've seen in the previous couple Illini teams. What's changed is the floor of this team compared to the last couple years. Last couple years, once one guy got hurt, we were in big trouble, and we didn't really have the adequate replacements ready. This year, things were a little bit different. And you know what? I haven't done the exact math yet. I just kind of quickly perused through the roster. But I counted 16 guys in our 2 deep who might be coming back next season. Sure, we're going to be losing Pat Bryant, Seth Coleman, Zachary Franklin. You know, we are going to be losing some key contributors when it comes to seniors. But I believe I saw from a Jeremy Warner article earlier, Illinois was the 4th youngest team in the Power 4 this season. The 4th youngest team in the Power 4 this year. We won 9 games, lost only 3. This is a team who, after you have a 9-3 season, recruits are going to start noticing. I talked about this previously. Illinois is one of the most stable programs in the Big Ten right now. Early on Sunday, Purdue fired their head coach. Walters was finally let go, despite a lot of people thinking, or the word getting around was Purdue just didn't have the money to let Walters and the staff go. But I think the writing was on the wall. Purdue was starting to lose almost its entire recruiting class because they knew that Walters' job wasn't safe. And so Purdue decided to fast forward the process and basically eat the money. We'll see, and we'll keep tabs on who they decide to bring in for that Purdue job. Obviously, that's very important to Illinois because that's one of our locked-in rivals. But Purdue is going through a coaching change. Wisconsin had a key player announced for the transfer portal over the weekend. Wisconsin's another program where, and again, we're going to be talking to Big Ten Ted shortly. We can get his Badger fan viewpoint. Wisconsin's another program of what the level we're trying to reach right now, right? In the short term, we want to be where the Wisconsins and Iowas have been for the past 15 years or so. Next year, Luke Fickell's seat is going to be very warm. There's a lot of people who are ready to let go of him now, especially after the debacle of the last 2 weeks, where Wisconsin fans have just simply not been happy. Right before I started recording this, I got a chance to watch the Locked On Spartans with my friend Matt Sheehan, and they called season number 1 under Jonathan Smith a failure. There's a lot of programs where kind of Illinois is sitting at in the same tier, and those jobs are under the magnifying glass. Right now, recruits look at Illinois and they know, they can feel confident that if they enroll at Illinois, Bret Bielema is going to be there for the next 3, 4, 5 years through their college careers. You can't say that at Purdue, obviously. You can't really say that at Wisconsin. Even Nebraska is having issues with Matt Rule. A lot of these programs who we're competing with when it comes to recruiting are very unstable right now. Illinois, for the last 4 years now under Bret Bielema, I do feel like we've overperformed. Especially, when it comes to the talent that we have on the field. I've brought up this statistic a couple of times now. Coming into this year, the 24/7 talent rankings had us dead last in the Big Ten. If there's one thing I think that Bret Bielema and the staff could improve on, it was recruiting and bringing more high-level talent and playmakers, is the word I keep using, into the program. I think a 9-3 season is going to catch the eyes of many. There's no way, you have guys like Zachary Franklin who performed the way they did, Torrey Cox who performed the way they did. Transfer portal players are going to look at Illinois as a destination. Usually, when you're coming out of high school, maybe you are chasing the highest dollar. It's all about the buzz, the fun, lights, camera action, all that kind of stuff. But if things don't work out at your first stop in college and your eventual goals are to play at the professional level, that stuff doesn't matter anymore. That's the type of message that worked on J.C. Davis. A lot of these players at the JUCO levels right now, they know if you're an offensive lineman, even a defensive lineman, if you commit to a Bret Bielema coach team, he's going to at least get you prepared to the max of your abilities. Whether that's good enough to make it to the NFL level, we'll see. But you won't be coming to Illinois and not reaching what your potential is. And so now, when we've seen that Bret Bielema and the staff can field not even a good season, a great season. This team has the potential to have finished 10-3 this year. if it wasn't for Indiana and Kurt Cignetti, Bret Bielema and the Fighting Illini would be one of the biggest stories in college football. The only thing we're somewhat lacking right now is the high-end talent when it comes to recruits. A lot of this team that just finished 9-3 is coming back next season. Now, obviously, we're going to have to make some sort of efforts. Like Luke Altmaier is going to cost a lot more when it comes to NIL money. Gabe Jacas has a very interesting call on whether he's ready to take the next step to the NFL or if he thinks he could use one more year of development and to come back here to Champaign. But otherwise, you're talking about the fourth youngest team in Power 4 football today that just finished 9-3. This is a team that plays well together, is coached well together, and I truly do believe we're going to see the fruits of this success over the next 2 or 3 recruiting cycles, where maybe the 4 or 5 stars that we've been lacking when it comes to recruiting will start understanding and listening to the message. And that's when I think Illinois can really blast off.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
All right, I figured we keep it a little football-centric today, and so I decided to bring on my good friend, Ted, from the Big Ten Ted Show. Ted, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Have we really gotten through the regular season? Is this really a thing right now? This is crazy, man.
No more games left, but let's talk about some of those games. Obviously, Ted, there's one game that everybody focused on this past weekend, but I already talked about it. Illinois beat Northwestern. Let's talk about the other games. How about, that other little game, Ohio State versus Michigan, which surprised many, me included, and it's been kind of the talk of the college football world since its conclusion. What are your thoughts on Michigan defeating Ohio State?
This is insane. I still can't believe it happened. I still can't believe that this game went down the way it did. I was sitting on the couch next to my wife and my dog, and I keep on turning, and I'm getting all excited in it, right? And I'm on the edge of my seat during this game, and I keep turning to my wife, and I said, this is crazy, but Ohio State's going to win. And I said that like 2 or 3 times in the second half as some of these events were happening. That Davis Warren interception by Jack Sawyer down by the goal line, I'm like, I don't know if they're going to get another opportunity as good as that one. But yet Ohio State was doing everything in their power to gift an early Christmas present, to gift Michigan this game. All right. So many different things. It all starts with the play calling. It all starts with Chip Kelly. He was adamant that says, I'm going to run the football up the middle or I'm going to die trying. Guess what? He died trying. Right. It was mind boggling to me how Chip and Ryan, however they came up with this game plan, right? This was clearly what they wanted to do. I said in my preview, I'm like, your advantage is a bunch of other people. If you don't think I'm smart, listen to some other people that have a bigger platform. And they've said the same thing, right? Joel Klatt was saying it during the game. Ohio State needed to live on the edge. No Will Johnson in this game. They did not have any Michigan. I'm saying no defensive backs that could cover Jeremiah Smith. No defensive backs that could cover Emeka Buka, Garnell Day, list them off anybody. They couldn't cover them. Right. And you can talk about, and Ryan Day mentioned the wind, and he mentioned this, and he mentioned that, but we get a lot more excuses that we've heard kind of in years past. But even if it was windy, short passing game, get it to your guys in space, get it to them slants, get it, roll out the quarterback, get it to them on a quick out. Like, just get the ball into the hands of your playmakers, because the advantage of Michigan's defense is Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, right? They were the two best players for Michigan on their football team. And Chip Kelly was adamant and says, I'm going to run the ball right up the middle. There was a sequence in the third quarter, and Joel Klatt was his call right after it happened was they ran it up the middle. They did a tight end screen or something like that. And then they did a delayed draw play when they were down in the red zone. And I'm watching this game and I was just amazed how this play calling kept going that way and going that way and going that way. And Michigan kind of took some lessons from Iowa. This was kind of an Iowa-ish type of game where they leaned on their defense. They kept on hanging around, and their offense wasn't very good, but they played some field position, and they did just enough to be able to win this game. Look, Michigan had been playing better towards this back half of the season. They played Indiana really tough, and really ever since that Illinois game, Michigan, once they got Davis Warren back into the lineup, they started to figure it out. I think Sharon Moore looked around and says, hey, this is what I got. This is what I got to work with. Let's make the best of it. Whereas maybe earlier in the season, he was trying to maybe find things that weren't there for the Wolverines. So once he kind of accepted what this maize and blue team was going to be, I think then he was able to get the most out of this maize and blue team, and that's why they had success certainly down the road. This is crazy because everything was there for Ohio State. You had them at home. You had the most talented team. People have thrown out that the Justin Fields team in 2020. People have thrown out the CJ Stroud team. Was that 2021 where they missed that field goal in the semifinals against Georgia at the stroke of midnight? But a lot of people, even preseason, remember when Urban Meyer and Jim Tressel were saying, yeah, this might be the most talented team. And they were really hyping up this team since 2014, since that national championship team. And as I mentioned, there's been other really good teams, but this was certainly an immensely talented squad. Michigan was a 500 ball club right on the edge of bowl eligibility. They had no offense. Everything was right there. And we get the same result that we've had the last 3 years. And, there's been a lot of people saying, if you can't beat Michigan now, it's going to get tougher because there's going to be a lot of departures from Ohio State. A lot of those guys that came back, that could have went to the NFL, they came back for this game, $20 million on the roster for this game. And you can't get it done against that Michigan team when you got Bryce Underwood and a bunch of recruits flipping, and they're going to hit the portal hard. They got a lot of money to burn in Ann Arbor, Michigan these days. This is a tough situation to be in for Ryan Day in this program for sure.
I mean, speaking of, at this point, is anything short of winning a national championship going to keep Ryan Day in Columbus?
That's the $64,000 question right now. I think that's it. Now, Ross Bjork, the athletic director, who's new, which it should be mentioned, this is the same guy that wasn't afraid of Jimbo Fisher's buyout. All right. So let's just, there might be a little bit of and we know Ohio State's got money to burn if they really want to get rid of Ryan Day at this point. So there's precedent, right, with that right there. So now you move on to the next thing. It's a new athletic director, that certainly, of course, he had the longtime AD, Gene Smith, the Pied Piper of Big Ten ADs for a long time, who has since retired, of course. But now you have a situation where not only did you not beat Michigan, but as I said, this was one of the worst Michigan teams since maybe the year before Harbaugh got hired, 2014. I know the COVID year in 2020 was certainly not a great football team as well, but I think there's precedent, and I think there is. And I've been a guy that has sit and says, how can you fire a guy that wins 90% of his games? That's ridiculous. That's insane. How can you do that? But I'm looking at this fan base right now, and I'm looking at this team right now, and that might be the case. I think he's got to make a run to the national championship to feel really good, and for this to really recapture the positivity of this fan base. He's got to make a run. He's got to make a run in the college football playoff. He's got to do his best to reset the focus of his team so he can be ready to go and maybe use this as a little bit of motivation, certainly, going forward. Here's what I will say. I don't think I think the verbiage is very important. I don't think Ohio State will terminate or fire Ryan Day. I think if they lose in the first round or the quarterfinals or maybe the semifinals, but certainly those first two rounds, I could see someone coming to something like agreeing to part ways or Ryan Day resigns or some other thing where they agree to this, saying, hey, Ryan, this is not working out. All right, we'll get someone to help you find a job in the NFL, in this program, in that program, but this is not working out. And they kind of want to make that break as clean as they possibly can. Yeah, but it's tough. It's tough. Ryan Day is going to want that buyout money. So obviously that plays into all of this as well. So it's a very interesting situation. And there's a lot of pressure on Ross Bjork to kind of make this decision right now at Ohio State. But I don't know if this team falls in the first round of the playoffs, I think he's gone. If they fall in the quarterfinals, probably. If they fall in the semifinals, okay, you've won a couple of playoff games because they're going to play in the first round now. So you feel a little bit better, but man, I've heard this fan base for a long time.
Yeah.
I know this fan base. Some people like it. Some people don't. It's very like Alabama. Once you lose a game, the world is burning down to the ground. Ross Bjork is going to have to gauge that, is going to have to see that when he pushed all the chips into the table, $20 million roster. And if you can't get it done, boy, that's a tough situation to be in. And for Ohio State, you need to gauge, I know I'm kind of long-winded here, but you need to gauge you need to be able to upgrade. Okay, Mike Vrabel has said on the record he doesn't want to coach in college, right? He doesn't like the system because that's when an Ohio State alum that's been thrown out there. Can you get Urban Meyer to come back for 3 or 4 or 5 years to kind of get this program back on track? What does this look like? Can you realistically go out there? I don't think Dan Lanning's going anywhere if you want to get somebody like that. That's what I think Ross Bjork and this administration needs to vet right now. Who can we get? Who can we realistically pry from another school in another area, and will it be an upgrade over Ryan Day?
It's just funny the words you chose, Urban Meyer, can he get the program back on track? A track where they've been winning 11 games.
I know.
Every single year.
But here's the thing about these two schools. Maybe more than any, I'd really have to think Alabama and Auburn might be up there certainly as well. But if you look at John Cooper's career, he couldn't win it. He couldn't win it, and they moved on. Right? This is just this is huge. I've seen a lot of social media reaction. And there was a podcast, Ohio State, the podcast, a part of the Rivals Network, that talked about this at the beginning of the year. And they surveyed their fans that said, hey, what if you lost to Michigan but won the national championship? How would you feel? And the fan base, and then after this game, we want to beat Michigan. That's what we want to do. Now, you can argue whether that's the right feeling to have or not, but it's the feeling that this fan base has right now. And, you play to win a title, but college football is so interesting because these rivalries run so deep and they're so important, right? Like you ask, I mean, you're a Bears fan. I'm a Packers fan, right? If the Packers, would they lose to the Bears twice in the season? Okay.
Bad example.
But if the Packers lost twice to the Chicago Bears in the regular season and they won the Super Bowl, nobody would care in Green Bay. We won the Lombardi Trophy. That's what matters. In college football, these rivalries run a lot deeper and they're a lot more important, especially in a place like Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, similar to what you're kind of saying, like my wife is a Buckeye, right? So I've always kind of at an arm's length paid attention to what that fan base is saying. And, I thought it was ridiculous. Like you said, this is a guy who wins, I think, like 93% of his games at the regular season level. And I always just kind of sat back and laughed. And like, you guys just don't know how good you have it. But for the first time, Ted, on Saturday, even my mind started changing. There were 20-point favorites at home against Michigan, and Michigan came out with the victory. It very well might be a mental thing with Ryan Day.
A lot of people have said that.
That he just can't get over that Michigan hump. And again, if he wins it all this year, okay, I think he's solidified. That'll more than make up for it. If he makes it to the national championship, I think he will probably be okay.
Yep.
But anything short of that, I've officially switched my position from you guys are crazy. You guys cannot get rid of Ryan Day to now he has to make the national championship bare minimum, or else I think he's out of there. And I actually think that's the right call.
I think so. Yeah, I know it's crazy. I was in the same boat as you. I'm like, this is insane. I mean, I'm a fan of Wisconsin, from the state of Wisconsin. Of course, you with Illinois. I mean, if these types of programs had this type of success, we'd be saying, what are we even talking about right now? Of course, we're not going to fire our coach and move on. But this program that they've got different expectations. It is just different with that program right now. But yeah, I kind of in the same boat where I'm drifting more to that side, saying, man, it's becoming a reality. But be careful what you wish for. Right. Look what happened to Nebraska now, of course, Bo Pelini, there was a lot of other stuff that kind of went into the toe with that, but 9 and 10 games a year. And then look what happened since then. I mean, look at Wisconsin right now and where they sit. I mean, that's a similar type of example and situation. Be careful. Hey, we want to compete for championships. Well, when you kind of turn the thing over, that's why I said, you got to make sure you get an upgrade. So Ross Bjork has got to vet guys the next couple of weeks, get with his boosters, get with his administration, saying, if there's a guy that really says, hey, if we can get this guy, we can really turn this thing around. All right. It's so weird saying that. And we can beat Michigan, right? Then you got to go for that. So it's going to be a very interesting couple of weeks.
So with that loss, Ohio State will not be playing in the Big Ten Championship. But right after this, Ted and I will get to a quick preview of the two teams that will. College basketball season is well underway, and let me tell you, there's no other experience like watching your favorite team at the home stadium. When you're looking for tickets, make sure you start off with the Game Time app. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite team play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. All-in pricing, toggling this feature shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Seat views get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. The lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, before we start talking about the Big Ten Championship game, a simple reminder, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It costs you guys nothing. It's my goal to hit 2,000 subscribers before the end of the calendar year. We're making progress. Looks a little bit daunting now that we're in December, but I believe it can be done with support that this community continues to show. Also, our Discord's starting to pop a little bit. We've got a few of us, a couple dozen of us in that Discord having conversations every single day. So find the link in the description. We'd love for you to join us. All right, Ted. Looks like it's going to be Oregon against Penn State. And so Oregon's obviously going to come in as the strong favorite. But we were just talking about the magnifying glass being on Ryan Day. But do you think this could be as equally a big game for a guy like James Franklin?
It's a big game. I'm not sure if it's like Ohio State, Michigan for Ryan Day, but it is certainly a big game. And when we talk about James, it's about winning these games. It's about competing in these games. The last big game that he had fell short at home, of course, to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, this is an Oregon team that is just absolutely loaded. They are playing their best right now. They're starting to get a little bit healthier. They get Jordan Birch, the great defensive lineman. He's been in and out of the lineup. He was in the lineup, played really well against Washington, a defense for Oregon that had 10 sacks. They were now Washington, not a good offensive line, right? But still, to have 10 sacks in a Big Ten conference game is absolutely ridiculous. Everybody, whenever they talk about Oregon, Tez Johnson was also back from injury. You talk about Tez, you talk about James and Whittington, who have a great combo at running back. Of course, Dylan Gabriel. This defense is nasty. This Oregon defense is really good. The big challenge for Penn State is going to be to blocking this defensive line. Right. When you look at Mateo Uiagalelei, leads the conference in sacks this year with 10.5. I talked about Birch, Tatum Tuioti coming off the edge as well. And then you look at Harmon and Caldwell, those big boys in the middle. Like, if they can terrorize Drew Aller back there and they can stuff this run game, I think Oregon could win pretty comfortably. But for Penn State, they need to get very creative. I think they need to get the ball to Tyler Warren, certainly in this game. And then defensively, once again, this is another tough battle, I think, for the Nittany Lions. They got two really good pass rushers in Dennis Sutton and Carter, right? Carter top 4 in the Big Ten in sacks this year with 10. But you've got two of the best tackles, Josh Connerly and Ajani Cornelius on either side for Oregon. So I think they're going to have to get creative with their stunts and their pass rushes, certainly up there. Oregon can do it anyway. You look at that first drive against Washington, where they looked like a Big Ten football team. They just mashed the ball right at the Washington Huskies. And I mentioned Jordan James and Noah Whittington, especially the power of Whittington right now. He's certainly coming into his own. You kind of look at Penn State in these games against really good defenses. Their offenses the offense hasn't been great, right? So they need to find a way to spark this, because if they don't spark their offense against that defense, and especially with what Oregon can do, I think Oregon has a big advantage throwing the ball down the field. You look at what teams like a Minnesota was able to do. I think teams have been able to throw the ball better against Penn State. Run defense is really good for the Nittany Lions, but I think Penn State needs to get creative. They need to win the turnover battle to kind of take a shortcut. I think Oregon's the best team in the country. I think Oregon, after this Ohio State loss, I think the Ducks are the national championship favorite. You take a look at some of these teams in the SEC and how they've looked right now. It's just, man, they just look like a machine. They look confident. They look ready to go. They look like on a team, on a mission, certainly right now. But I think it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be competitive over there at the neutral site in Indianapolis. I cannot wait. I cannot wait for this game. But what's been the narrative about both these? Like, look, I talked about Penn State and the narrative with Franklin. Oregon, right? They get to this point in the season in history, 2010, losing to Auburn, 2014, losing to Ohio State. You get to the end of the season, and you haven't been able to win that elusive national championship. So now it's really on the table as well for Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks to see if they can get through that, because they've been able, for the most part, to really coast through their Big Ten schedule. Now the competition is really going to heat up, because they are the ones with the big old target on their back. It's going to be a lot of fun in Indy.
Yeah, I'm not quite ready to make my prediction yet. I'll probably be doing that later on, closer to the game time, probably after watching your preview of the game, which I'm sure you're going to have this week. What else you got lined up?
Oh my gosh, it is the jam-packed weeks of all jam-packed weeks. Oh boy, what do we got coming up? We got signing day on Wednesday. Man, that's interesting spot on the calendar for that. But we're going to be covering Big Ten big signing day headlines coming up on Wednesday. So we're going to be covering that. I'm going to have my preview and prediction of the Big Ten championship game on Thursday. So that will drop then. On Friday, I'm going to have a view of the Big Ten championship game from both sides. I'm going to be bringing on insiders and reporters from both teams. Going to be talking to Richie O'Leary of Happy Valley Insider, part of the Rivals Network. We got my guy J-Hop, Justin Hopkins at Scoop Duckin' on 3 that runs the show over there. So we're going to be talking to each reporter, how each team is kind of feeling. That's going to drop on Friday. We've got more possible things that we are going to cover as well throughout the week. So, and I'll know here very shortly whether I'll be going to Indianapolis or not. So if I'm in Indy, there's going to be a lot of coverage certainly there as well. So you know where to go. You know where it's going to drop. It's going to be a fun week. I'm looking forward to this. And then we go on to the college football playoff, and that should be a whole nother set of excitement. So this is the place to be, certainly for the Big Ten fan, as we get ready for the Ducks and Nittany Lions matchup on Saturday night.
Best in the world, Ted. I appreciate you coming on.
All right, sounds good.
And that'll wrap it up for today's episode of Locked On Illini. Please, again, on your way out, make sure you're subscribed to this show. When I checked before I started recording, 64% of you watching this aren't subscribed. You may just not realize you're not subscribed. The way the algorithm works, if you watch this once, they might just keep showing up on your timeline. Just do me a quick favor. Again, it doesn't cost you guys anything, but it helps this channel grow a great deal. Again, we're going to have, as Ted talked about, signing day coverage. We're going to be talking about the Big Ten basketball season kicking off Friday against Northwestern. And, well, unfortunately or fortunately, this part of the football season also brings a lot of transfer portal news. And so we'll be monitoring that situation for any potential defects, people leaving, or people who might be whispered to come to Champaign. Just make sure you're locked on right here at Locked On Illini. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.